The stars were endless, a sea of shining lights stretching across the dark expanse of space. On a small remote planet near the edge of the galaxy, the human child Caleb sat quietly in a dimly lit room. His hands were bound by soft ropes, nothing more than a reminder that he was not free. Caleb was just a boy, no older than 10, but the universe had already shown him cruelty that no child should ever experience. The Xerix Dominion, an alien empire known for its ruthlessness, had captured him by mistake. Caleb had been with his family, exploring a new world. His parents were scientists, working on a project to understand the many worlds beyond Earth. But a sudden attack from the Xerix had left them all stranded. In the chaos, Caleb was taken aboard a strange ship, far from his home. His family, lost to the stars, would remain just a memory. Now, Caleb found himself in a cold laboratory on the Xerix flagship. The walls were made of smooth metallic surfaces that reflected the dim lights overhead. It felt like an endless maze of sterile halls. Caleb was alone, locked in a room where the only company he had were the harsh, unfamiliar voices of the Xerix scientists who were curious about his species. They had taken him not out of malice, but out of a desire to learn more about humans. The Xerix had never encountered humanity before. They had studied many species, all vastly different from each other, but the humans they captured were unlike anything they had seen. With their small size and strange, soft skin, the scientists were intrigued by the child's resilience. Caleb did not show fear in the way the Xerix had expected. Instead, he held his head high and spoke only when spoken to, even though he had no idea what would happen next. Caleb's situation was grim, but he had learned to survive on the streets of Earth, scavenging for food and finding shelter wherever he could. His childhood had not been easy, but it had made him strong. In the Xerix lab, he had learned to keep his thoughts to himself. He refused to let the alien scientists see his fear, though it gnawed at him every night. Days passed, then weeks. The Xerix kept him in isolation, testing his physical strength and endurance. They observed him as he slept, noted his reactions when he was hungry or scared. But no matter what they did, Caleb didn't break. His mind was too sharp, his spirit too strong. It was as if he knew deep down that he was not just a child lost in the stars. He was something more. The Xerix scientists grew frustrated. They had expected him to crumble under the pressure, to reveal the weakness they believed every being had. But Caleb never cried out. He never begged. He simply endured. One day, while they experimented on him, the scientists left a small old communication device on a table nearby. It was a mistake. Caleb saw his chance. He was quick to grab the device, knowing it might be his only opportunity to send a message. His small hands trembled as he pushed the buttons, sending a signal out into space. The message was brief, a broken cry for help. Caleb didn't know if it would reach anyone, but he had to try. He could feel the pulse of his heart in his chest, racing with the hope that somewhere out there, someone would hear him. Back on Earth, no one knew Caleb had sent the message. But the signal was strong enough to reach the United Terran Alliance, UTA. A young technician working late at a monitoring station noticed the strange signal. It was weak, fragmented, but unmistakable. It was a human cry. With trembling hands, the technician contacted the higher authorities. Soon, the message made its way to the highest levels of the UTA. It was clear. A human child had been captured by the Xerix, and Earth had to act. Caleb's signal was the spark that would ignite a long-hidden power, a force that would reveal itself to the galaxy. Back on the Xerix ship, Caleb, unaware of the response to his call, sat silently in his small, cold cell. The alien scientists continued their experiments, certain they would soon break him. But they were wrong. Caleb's strength wasn't something they could measure with tools or tests. It was something deeper, something they couldn't understand. And with that small, desperate signal, the fate of the galaxy would begin to change. The story of humanity, its spirit and its strength, was just beginning. The message Caleb had sent was small, but it carried more weight than anyone could have expected. It was faint and broken, barely a whisper in the vastness of space. However, the signal was enough to reach Earth. From the moment the technician first heard the weak transmission, the United Terran Alliance, UTA, sprang into action. No one on Earth knew exactly where Caleb was or what was happening to him, but they knew one thing for certain. The human child was in danger, and Earth would not ignore the call. It was a quiet morning on Earth when the UTA leaders gathered in their central command facility. The room was filled with top-level military officials, diplomats, and scientists. They had been monitoring space for years, but the signal Caleb sent was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was too strange to be an accident. Someone had meant for it to reach them. General Naomi Delgado stood at the head of the room, her face serious as she stared at the faint lines of the message displayed on the screen. "This is not a mistake," she said, her voice calm but determined. "This is a distress signal from one of our own. A human child has been captured by the Xyrix Dominion." The room fell silent. The Xyrix Dominion, an empire that ruled with cruelty and fear, was one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. They were known for conquering entire planets and enslaving weaker species. Earth had been observing them for years, learning their tactics, but the idea of directly confronting the Xyrix was unthinkable. They had never made a move against Earth, until now. A soft murmur filled the room as the leaders debated what to do. Some wanted to send a team of diplomats to negotiate, to try to reason with the Xyrix. Others argued for a more forceful approach, suggesting that Earth send a military strike to rescue the child. General Delgado listened carefully, her mind racing. She knew Earth had a secret weapon, a hidden fleet of advanced warships built long ago for an emergency like this. But the fleet had remained hidden, a safeguard for humanity's future. Could they reveal it now? Was it time? After a long pause, General Delgado made her decision. "We can't wait any longer," she said firmly. "The Xyrix have our child, and they need to know that humanity will not stand by and let them take one of our own. Activate Project Aegis." The room fell quiet, the weight of her words sinking in. Project Aegis had been designed as a precaution, a hidden fleet built to protect Earth if the galaxy ever turned against them. For years, Earth had kept it a secret, knowing that revealing it too soon could start a war they weren't ready for. But now, that time had come. The fleet was scattered across various secret locations in the solar system, hidden in asteroid fields, behind moons, and within planets' rings. It consisted of some of the most advanced ships ever created, designed not just for defense, but for a fight, if necessary. Lieutenant Commander Avery Carter, one of the few people who knew the location of the fleet, was already on his way to the command center. He had spent most of his life training for this moment, though he never imagined it would come under such circumstances. He was calm, but his heart beat faster as he thought of Caleb. What could be happening to him? Was he still alive? The orders came quickly. The fleet was to move, but not all at once. First, a small group of ships would go, not to fight, but to gather information. Stealth would be key. They needed to know exactly where Caleb was being held and how to strike without alerting the Xyrix to the full strength of Earth's new fleet. On the other side of the galaxy, the Xyrix scientists had no idea what was coming. They continued their experiments on Caleb, still baffled by his resilience. No matter what they tried, the child refused to give in. He was a mystery to them, and they grew frustrated, their patience wearing thin. But Caleb was not afraid. Deep inside, he felt a flicker of hope. He didn't know if his message had been received, but he trusted that someone from Earth, would come for him. He had been waiting for this moment, and now that it was coming, he could feel the weight of his mission. He wasn't just a child trapped in an alien lab. He was a symbol of everything humanity stood for: hope, courage, and the belief that no one could be left behind. As Earth's fleet prepared for their mission, Caleb's message began to ripple through the galaxy. It wasn't just a signal. It was a declaration. Humanity would not be ignored. They had a fleet. They had strength, and they would fight for their own. The stars that had once seemed so distant now felt a little closer as the hope of one small child reached across the vastness of space. The hidden fleet of Earth was not like any other in the galaxy. Built in secret over the course of decades, it was designed not for show, but for action. The ships were sleek, powerful, and armed with technology far beyond what anyone in the galaxy expected from Earth. The United Terran Alliance, UTA, had always been a peaceful planet, focusing on diplomacy and science. But in times of danger, humanity had shown that it could rise up and protect its own. Lieutenant Commander Avery Carter stood at the helm of Aegis, the flagship of Earth's hidden fleet. The massive ship was a symbol of everything Earth had been building in the shadows. For years, Aegis had remained in silence, a sleeping giant waiting for the right moment to awaken. Now, that moment had arrived. Caleb, the young human child held by the Xyrix, had sent the message that would forever change the course of history. As the fleet prepared to leave Earth's orbit, the command room aboard Aegis was filled with officers and specialists, each one focused on the mission ahead. The first phase of their plan was simple: move quickly, stay hidden, and learn everything they could about the Xyrix stronghold where Caleb was being held. No one knew exactly where he was, and time was critical. Stealth mode activated, Carter ordered, his voice calm but with a sense of urgency. Initiate the jump sequence. The ships around Aegis were smaller, faster, and just as advanced, designed for quick strikes and rapid escapes. They would be the first to move, slipping past enemy ships unnoticed. The main fleet would follow later, but only once they had gathered enough intelligence about the Xyrix defenses. The stars outside the windows blurred as the ships jumped to light speed, and the fleet shot through the dark emptiness of space. Their destination was the Xyrix-controlled region of the galaxy, a place where no human had ever ventured. It was a risky move, but there was no other choice. Caleb's fate depended on it. While the fleet moved forward, Caleb remained in the Xyrix facility, still unaware of the enormous effort underway to save him. The alien scientists continued their tests, each one more invasive than the last. Caleb had learned to shut out the discomfort, focusing instead on his thoughts and memories of Earth. He thought about his parents, their warm smiles, the simple joys of life on his home planet. But more than anything, he focused on the hope that had been growing inside him ever since he sent the signal. He had reached out, and now he believed someone would come for him. Back in the command center aboard Aegis, the officers worked quickly, coordinating their movements with precision. Their mission was clear: gather data on the Xyrix base, identify weaknesses, and prepare for a rescue operation. The fleet would remain undetected for as long as possible, using every bit of technology at their disposal to avoid the Xyrix detection systems. Approaching target system, Lieutenant Carter announced. His hands flew over the controls as he monitored the fleet's position. We'll begin the recon mission in 5 minutes. The fleet slowed as they neared the Xyrix region. The space around them was quiet, eerily still, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. The crew aboard Aegis knew the risks. The Xyrix were powerful and ruthless, and they had advanced surveillance technology that could easily spot intruders. But Earth's ships were designed to be invisible, built with the most advanced stealth technology available. The key was to remain unnoticed for as long as possible. Lieutenant Carter studied the information on the screen before him. The Xyrix base was a massive facility on a barren planet, surrounded by a dense field of asteroids. The asteroid field would provide a good cover, but it also posed a danger. One wrong move, and the fleet could be caught in a trap. We'll deploy the drones, Carter said, his voice steady. Let's see what we're dealing with. Small, specialized drones were released from the fleet, each equipped with advanced sensors and cameras. They moved silently through the asteroid field, collecting data from the Xyrix base. The drones sent back streams of information, revealing the layout of the facility, the number of guards, and the security measures in place. After what felt like an eternity, the drones returned to the fleet, their mission complete. The data was transmitted to the command center. Lieutenant Carter analyzed the information quickly, his mind racing with possibilities. "The base is heavily guarded," he said. "They got more defenses than we expected, but there are weak points. We can work with this." The officers exchanged glances. This was their first real victory. They had the information they needed. The rescue operation could begin, but it wouldn't be easy. They would need to move fast, strike hard, and remain invisible to the Xyrix. "We have one chance," Lieutenant Carter said, looking out at the stars. "We get Caleb, and we get out. No mistakes." As the fleet continued to hover near the asteroid field, awaiting their next move, Caleb sat in his cell, unaware of the danger or the hope approaching from the stars. His message had been heard. Earth had responded. And soon, the galaxy would know just what humanity was capable of. The Xyrix Dominion had always been confident in their power. For centuries, they had crushed planets under their heel, conquering and enslaving species with ease. Their military might was unmatched, and their empire stretched across the galaxy like a shadow. The last thing they expected was for a tiny, peaceful planet like Earth to rise up against them. But Earth's hidden fleet was not just any fleet. It was unlike anything that Xyrix had encountered before. The first signs of trouble began when the small Earth ships entered the Xyrix-controlled region of space, stealthy as shadows. Their technology was advanced beyond what the Xyrix had seen, and for a moment, they went unnoticed. The Xyrix forces, busy with their daily routines, had no reason to suspect that their dominance was about to be challenged. However, the calm was short-lived. The drones Earth had deployed earlier returned with their information, and now the fleet was preparing for their first strike. Lieutenant Commander Avery Carter and his team had studied the Xyrix base for hours. They knew where the weak spots were, and they had a plan in place. But the element of surprise was key. They had to make their move quickly and quietly. "All ships, prepare for Phase 1, Carter ordered. "We're going in." The Earth fleet, small but powerful, crept closer to the Xyrix stronghold, using the cover of the asteroid field to remain undetected. Each ship was equipped with advanced cloaking technology that made them nearly invisible to enemy sensors. The fleet moved with the precision of a well-rehearsed dance, each ship in perfect harmony with the others. The plan was to strike fast, hit the weak points of the base, and extract Caleb before the Xyrix even realized what was happening. But the Xyrix weren't as blind as they seemed. They had a keen sense for danger, and their military was more advanced than the Earth fleet had hoped. The Xyrix quickly detected a disturbance in the surrounding space, a faint ripple in their sensors that indicated the presence of unknown ships. It was subtle, but it was enough to raise suspicion. "Captain, we have an anomaly," a Xyrix officer said, staring at the readout in front of him. "Something's out there." The captain of that Xyrix ship was quick to react. "Increase patrols around the base," he ordered. "Activate the long-range scanners. I want to know everything in this sector." As the Xyrix began to investigate, they discovered the Earth fleet, hidden in the shadows of the asteroid field. Their sensors finally picked up the faintest traces of the fleet's movements. But by then, it was too late. The Earth fleet was already in position, ready to make their move. "Phase 1. Begin," Carter commanded again. The first strike came swiftly. The Earth ships, using their advanced weaponry, targeted key systems in the Xyrix base. Their energy shields, communication towers, and power grids. The blasts were precise and powerful, disabling the base's defenses before the Xyrix forces could respond. It was a shock to the Dominion, a sudden attack they hadn't prepared for. Alarms blared across the Xyrix base as their systems began to fail. The Xyrix soldiers scrambled to respond, but their coordination was shattered. They were not ready for such an organized and unexpected assault. The base's outer walls began to crumble, and chaos spread within. In the heart of that Xyrix base, Caleb heard the loud blasts echoing through the facility. For a moment, he thought it was another test, another experiment. But then he heard something else, the sound of footsteps. Running footsteps, soldiers scrambling. It wasn't normal. He stood up quickly, his heart racing. Was it happening? Was someone coming for him? The sound of the explosion had stirred something inside him, a spark of hope that had lain dormant for so long. Caleb had believed that someone would come. He had trusted that Earth would not abandon him. Now it seemed that belief was becoming a reality. He couldn't let himself be weak now. He had to be ready. Back at the command center aboard Aegis, Lieutenant Commander Carter watched as the chaos unfolded on the Xyrix base's surveillance screens. His fleet was making quick work of the enemy's defenses, but this was just the beginning. They had to move faster. Caleb's life depended on it. "All units, engage," Carter commanded, his voice steady but full of determination. "We've done the hard part. Now let's finish this." Earth's fleet moved in, each ship following its assigned target. Their mission was simple: get in, get Caleb, and get out. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something that Xyrix didn't: surprise, speed, and the determination to protect one of their own. As the Earth ships advanced, the Xyrix began to scramble. Their counterattacks were desperate, but they were too late. The Earth fleet was already inside the facility, moving swiftly through the dark halls of the base, heading toward the room where Caleb was being held. Caleb, still unsure of what was happening outside, took a deep breath. He could feel it in his bones. The rescue was coming. The stars that had once seemed so far away now felt closer than ever. Soon, he would be free. The Xyrix Dominion had underestimated humanity's strength, and now they were going to learn what it meant to face a force that would stop at nothing to protect its own. The sound of the explosion still echoed in Caleb's ears, a distant reminder of the chaos unfolding around him. His heart raced as he tried to focus on the narrow window of opportunity that had just opened. The Xyrix were distracted, their base in disarray. It was the moment he had been waiting for, the moment he hoped for when he first sent that desperate message. Caleb had been held in the heart of the Xyrix stronghold, locked in a small, cold cell. The walls around him were smooth and featureless, offering little comfort. The alien scientists, though cruel in their methods, had underestimated the one thing they couldn't test: Caleb's will to survive. Every day, he had kept a steady mind, pushing through the strange experiments and isolation. Now he felt that same inner strength pulsing as he realized help was on the way. Outside his cell, the Xyrix soldiers scrambled to respond to the attack. The Earth fleet had struck with speed and precision, crippling their defenses. Caleb could hear footsteps, shouting, alien voices echoing through the hallways. The Xyrix were panicked, their usual order shattered in the face of this unexpected assault. Then, the door to Caleb's cell creaked open. He froze, unsure of who would appear on the other side. Was it one of the Xyrix soldiers coming to drag him back? Or was this the moment he had been waiting for? A figure stepped into the dim light, tall and human. It was one of the soldiers from Earth's fleet. Caleb's breath caught in his throat as he recognized the uniform. The human rescue team had arrived. The soldier, a woman with short-cropped brown hair and a calm but urgent expression, gave him a quick nod. "Caleb, we're here to get you out," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "You're safe now. We've got you." Relief flooded through Caleb, so overwhelming that he almost couldn't believe it. For so long he had felt alone in this strange and hostile place. But now here was someone who had come for him, someone who understood. "Are you really from Earth?" Caleb whispered, his voice shaky from the mix of fear and joy. The soldier smiled briefly, a reassuring nod. "Yes, we're not leaving you behind." Caleb's heart surged. The weight of his captivity seemed to lift, replaced by an overwhelming sense of hope. But the Xyrix, "They're everywhere," he said, looking around. "How will we get out?" "We'll move quickly," the soldier said. "We've got a plan, but we need to stay ahead of the Xyrics. They're already trying to organize a counterattack, but we won't give them the chance." With that, she gestured for Caleb to follow her. They moved swiftly through the halls, Caleb trying to keep up as they made their way deeper into the Xyrics base. The walls trembled with the distant explosions of the Earth Fleet's strikes. Caleb could hear the clattering of boots as the Xyric soldiers scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. The surprise attack had taken them off guard. As they moved through the corridors, Caleb began to see the signs of the Xyrics' broken command. Some of the alien soldiers were running in the opposite direction, retreating from the chaos. Others were working to fix damaged systems, but their efforts were scattered and disorganized. The Earth soldier led Caleb into an underground tunnel, one of the last safe routes out of the facility. The tunnel was narrow, with low ceilings and dim lighting, but it was their best shot at escaping without being detected by the Xyrics. "Stay close," the soldier instructed, her hand resting lightly on Caleb's shoulder. "We're almost there." Caleb nodded, his mind racing with thoughts of what would happen once they were free. He had dreamed of this moment for so long, being rescued, returning home to Earth. But he knew that the mission wasn't over yet. The Xyrics would be relentless, and even though their defenses had been hit hard, they would never stop hunting for those who dared to defy them. As they moved deeper into the tunnel, Caleb could hear the faint sound of voices ahead. The soldier paused, listening intently. "We're not alone," she whispered, her eyes narrowing. "Stay behind me." They crouched low, careful not to make a sound. The voices grew louder, closer. Caleb's pulse quickened as he realized that another group of Xyric soldiers was patrolling the tunnel. They had found their way into the facility's backup systems, and now they were searching for any sign of the intruders. The soldier motioned for Caleb to stay put. She took a few careful steps forward, her hand reaching for the small, advanced weapon at her side. Caleb held his breath, watching her every move. The soldier moved with quiet precision, taking out the first guard with a swift, silent strike. The second guard barely had time to react before she disabled him as well, her movements quick and efficient. Caleb watched, wide-eyed, but he didn't feel fear. There was no time for fear now. Earth's soldiers had come to save him, and he knew they would get him out. The soldier turned back to Caleb, giving him a nod. "We're clear," she said softly. "Let's move." With renewed determination, they continued down the tunnel, heading toward the escape ships that would take them back to the fleet. Caleb's heart was filled with hope as they neared the exit. He wasn't alone anymore. Earth had come for him, and together, they would make it back home. Caleb's heart pounded as he followed the soldier through the dark, winding corridors of the Xyrics base. They had moved quickly through the underground tunnels, evading patrols and avoiding detection. Every turn, every shadow, seemed like a trap waiting to close in on them. The Xyrics had already begun to regroup after the attack, and their soldiers were searching for any sign of the intruders. The danger was everywhere, but Caleb couldn't help but feel the spark of hope inside him growing stronger with each step. "We're almost there," the soldier whispered, glancing over her shoulder. Her eyes were sharp, scanning the tunnel ahead. Caleb nodded, trying to steady his breathing. The escape route was just up ahead, but the closer they got, the more he could feel the tension in the air. The Xyrics were closing in, and they had no time to waste. The soldier raised her hand to signal for Caleb to stop. She moved ahead cautiously, peering around a corner. Her expression was focused, calm but alert. "Two guards up ahead," she said in a low voice, her hand on her weapon. "We need to take them out quietly." Caleb nodded, his heart racing. He didn't have any combat experience, but he trusted the soldier. He had to. This was his only chance to get out alive. The soldier moved like a shadow, creeping toward the two guards, who were stationed at the entrance to the escape bay. She was fast, precise, and before Caleb could blink, The guards were down, one with a swift strike to the neck, the other knocked unconscious with a well-placed blow. Caleb's eyes widened, both impressed and relieved. The soldier gave him a quick nod, signaling him to follow. They were close now. The escape ships, waiting just beyond the guard post, were within reach. Caleb's pulse quickened, the excitement of freedom almost overwhelming. But as they approached the final corner before the escape bay, the ground shook. A loud, thunderous explosion ripped through the base. The walls vibrated, and dust filled the air. Caleb staggered, barely catching himself against the wall. The soldier didn't flinch. Her eyes narrowed as she instinctively reached for her communicator. "That wasn't us," she muttered under her breath, speaking quickly into the device. "Command, report. What's going on?" The response was immediate. "Cyric's reinforcements have arrived. Their main fleet is entering the system. You need to move now." The soldier's face hardened. She didn't need to be told twice. She grabbed Caleb's arm and pulled him toward the escape bay. They reached the bay, but what they found there wasn't what they had expected. The small fleet of Earth ships, which had been waiting for them, had been severely damaged in the chaos of the Xyrix attack. Several of the escape pods were destroyed, and others were rapidly losing power. The remaining ships were preparing to launch, but time was running out. "We're not going to make it if we don't hurry," the soldier said, her voice tight with urgency. "Get in the pod, Caleb. It's your only chance." Caleb's mind raced. He had come so far, and now, just when he thought they were safe, the Xyrix had brought their wrath to Earth's doorstep. The enemy's reinforcements were here, and they would stop at nothing to capture him again. He glanced at the escape pod, a sleek, small vessel designed for rapid evacuation. The soldier was already in the cockpit, motioning for him to get in. He took a deep breath and climbed in, his fingers trembling as he fastened his seatbelt. The soldier hit the launch sequence, and the pod's engines roared to life. The door closed with a soft hiss, sealing them inside. Caleb felt the ship shake as it blasted away from the base, the force of the launch sending him back into his seat. As the pod shot into space, Caleb looked out through the small viewport. The Xyrix base was already receding, but the battle wasn't over. He could see the massive shadow of the Xyrix fleet descending toward them, their ships moving in tight formation, ready to pursue. Earth's fleet, though still hidden, had already begun to fight back. "They're right behind us," the soldier said, her voice grim. "Brace for impact." Caleb's hands gripped the seat as the pod rocketed through space, the Xyrix ships closing in fast. The soldier's calm demeanor remained, but even she couldn't hide the worry in her eyes. The Earth fleet had launched their counterattack, but they were outnumbered. It would take everything they had to survive this. The escape pod jolted as enemy fire struck the shields, the small vessel shaking violently. Caleb's breath caught in his throat as the pod struggled to stay on course. "Just hold on," the soldier said through gritted teeth, her hands steady on the controls. "We're almost there." As the pod sped toward the hidden fleet, Caleb couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping into his mind. The Xyrix weren't going to let him go that easily. The Earth fleet had done everything they could to protect him, but now they had to make their final stand. The Xyrix were relentless, but so was humanity, and Caleb knew with all his heart that Earth would never give up on its own. The stars outside the escape pod were a blur of light as Caleb gripped the seat tighter. The Xyrix fleet was closing in fast. Their ships moved in tight formation, creating a wall of metal and firepower, blocking any hope of escape. He could feel the pod's hull groan under the strain as it accelerated toward the hidden Earth fleet. The soldier at the controls was silent, her focus unwavering as she skillfully piloted the pod through the storm of enemy fire. Caleb glanced at her, his heart pounding in his chest. Despite the chaos, she remained calm, her eyes scanning the skies as if she had done this 100 times before. "We're not out yet," she said quietly, her voice steady but tense. "Stay ready." The escape pod rocked again as another wave of laser fire hit the shields. Caleb's stomach lurched as the vessel shuddered, but the shields held strong for now. Outside, the battle between the Exarchs and Earth's fleet raged. Caleb could see the flash of explosions as Earth's ships returned fire, their sleek silhouettes darting through space with impressive agility. They were fighting with everything they had, but the Exarchs were relentless. The odds were against them, but there was something powerful in the way Earth's fleet fought back. They were united, determined, and above all, they were protecting each other. "We'll make it," Caleb whispered to himself, trying to hold on to that hope. The soldier shot him a brief, reassuring look. "I'm counting on it," she replied, as another series of blasts rattled the pod. The countdown to their rendezvous with Earth's fleet was ticking down, each second feeling like an eternity. Caleb's mind raced. What if they didn't make it? What if the fleet was too far gone, overrun by the Exarchs? But then he remembered the message he had sent to Earth. Humanity didn't give up, even when the odds were impossible. They never had, and they never would. Suddenly, a warning light flickered on the pod's dashboard. The soldier cursed under her breath. "They're deploying interceptors," she said. "Small, fast ships. We won't outrun them. We need to fight." Caleb's pulse quickened as the soldier flipped switches, activating the pod's defensive systems. A small weapons array hummed to life, the blaster cannons warming up. The soldier's fingers moved rapidly, her face intense with concentration. The first interceptor appeared in their sights, small, agile, and armed to the teeth. It darted toward them, weapons flashing. The soldier didn't hesitate. With a quick motion, she fired, hitting the interceptor dead on. The enemy ship exploded in a brilliant burst of light. But the danger wasn't over. Two more interceptors appeared, this time flanking them on either side. "I need you to keep your head, Caleb," the soldier said, her voice commanding. "Help me take these out." Caleb nodded, his hands shaking as he reached for the controls. It was crazy. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a fighter. But there was no time for doubt. Earth had come for him, and now he had to fight for them. With the soldier's guidance, Caleb fired the pod's cannons, targeting the incoming interceptors. The first blast hit the closest ship, sending it spiraling off course. The second one was more difficult. Caleb aimed carefully, his breath held in his chest. The pod shuddered as the second interceptor got closer, but just as it opened fire, Caleb fired again, and the ship exploded, scattering into fragments of burning metal. The soldier let out a quick breath, her voice more approving now. "Good shot. Stay focused." As the remaining interceptors scattered, Earth's fleet finally came into view. The immense ships of the fleet filled the distance between the pod and safety, their weapons firing at the incoming Exarchs forces, creating a shield of fire. Caleb could see the main flagship of Earth's fleet, Aegis, standing tall amidst the chaos. It was huge, its powerful cannons glowing with energy, sending out waves of destruction to push back the Exarchs. The escape pod was now close enough for the fleet to lock onto its position. Caleb's heart skipped a beat as a message flashed on the pod's screen. "Prepare for docking." The soldier expertly guided the pod toward the waiting bay of Aegis, and the pod entered the massive ship's hangar with a smooth, controlled landing. As the doors of the pod hissed open, Caleb stepped out, his legs weak but steady. He had made it. The soldier looked at him, offering a small, tired smile. "You're safe now, Caleb." Caleb looked around, taking in the sight of the Earth fleet's mighty flagship. He felt something stir inside him. Pride, hope, relief. Earth had come for him. They had fought back against the powerful Exarch's dominion and rescued him when he had lost all hope. Behind him, the doors to the hangar slid open, revealing a team of Earth soldiers waiting for them. They were all ready for the next phase of the battle. The fight was far from over. But Earth had shown that it would never back down, no matter how powerful the enemy. They had come together, not just to save one person, but to protect everything they believed in. And Caleb knew, in that moment, that this was only the beginning. He wasn't just a prisoner anymore. He was part of something much greater, something unyielding, something that would stand strong against any force that tried to tear it down. The light of humanity, bright and determined, would never fade. And the Xyrix Dominion would soon learn that Earth's fight was far from over.